Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Downloadable Content. My name is S.J. Herschel, and today we're going to be talking about the Switch 2 launch. Let's get right into it. Okay, so my Nintendo Switch 2 has arrived in the mail. I opened it up and got it all set up today. I would like to show you my unboxing video, but unfortunately, after reviewing the unboxing video, it's not the quality that I wanted it to be in terms of viewing angle and everything. So I think I'm just going to post that onto Patreon. So Patreon supporters can look at that. But I did do a second take just of my first impressions on the hardware where I showcase it and everything. So if you are just listening to this audio only, I do recommend watching it in video. If not, you don't have to. That's okay. You can just kind of skip over this next section where I give my first impressions and go over the hardware. So let's get into that real quick, and then I will be back for some commentary. I just want to give a quick rundown of what's in the box, what I like about it, my first impressions of the hardware so far. Okay, so first things first, Joy-Con grip, very nice. I will show you how this works in a moment. Power brick, very standard, but it's nice that it's USB-C because you can put other devices in it as well. The USB-C cable, this will go into the power brick and the dock. The dock, here's the first major change from the first Switch. This is what the inside looks like. I was hoping that they would have some, maybe microfiber lining or something in there to prevent scratching the Switch when you put it in and out over and over and over. But it's just glossy plastic there, so I would not be surprised if you start to see some minor scratches on the screen after a long time. I might be wrong on that because this is plastic, a softer material than the glass that's on the screen, so it might be fine, but I personally don't like to chance that. I'm definitely going to be putting a screen protector on my Switch 2. The top opens just like this. And to reveal the insides, you've got the AC adapter right there, USB-C, HDMI out, and a LAN line in right there. There's a lot of ventilation because this actually has a function now. It has a fan in there, and it is supposed to allow the Switch 2 to run faster once it is docked. Let me put that aside. Joy-Con, are these called rails? Not sure, I think Joy-Con rails. These are really good. I really like these much better than the first ones. I'll show you how that works in a sec. And the Switch 2, here it is. I really like these accented colors. I really can't get over it. It is quite nice. And I may not post the original unboxing video just because I wasn't very happy with it. Sorry to disappoint if that's what you were expecting, but honestly, there are plenty of other YouTube channels that are going to do a better job than I will at having an exciting ASMR unboxing. I just wanted to show you how this mechanism works. It's incredibly satisfying. You press this latch right here, which separates the Joy-Con from the dock. It pushes this little latch up, and it presses up against the side of the Switch to make it easier to unlatch magnetically. And as I've done this over and over, I haven't had any issues with that, lining up correctly or anything. Primarily because the part that latches onto the side of the Switch is protruded like this. So you really can't mess it up. Whether, you know, stupid kids mess with that and break it or something, that remains to be seen, but I don't really think it's a big issue. Here's the left side. Nice colors. Very beautiful. I want to talk about the size of the Joy-Cons real quick, and the screen itself too. It's quite a bit larger. Sorry, you keep seeing a reflection of me. The trigger buttons, the bumpers, they feel about the same as the Switch 1. Not bad. It is nice that the Joy-Cons are taller. I can get a much more comfortable grip, though it's still very thin, you know, so you don't really have much of a grip back here. You're just going to be resting your hands like that, or I just kind of do this when I hold it, you know, curl my fingers in a little bit. I personally never had cramping issues or anything, but this certainly isn't the ideal way to play any intense games like Smash Brothers or anything like that. The buttons are larger. They're a little bit larger, so I think there'll be less complaints of people, you know, accidentally pressing 2 buttons at once or anything like that. I like how they click too. It's very satisfying. I think it's a little more of a muted click when compared to the original Switch, but it's nice. I like it. The sticks are all right. They're fine. They're similar to the first Switch in terms of travel. I think it feels a little smoother in general, but I don't know if that's because this is brand new and my existing Switch Joy-Cons are old. But it feels a little bit better. But honestly, I personally probably am going to put some covers on here to artificially create more travel on the sticks, because I like to have a little more precise controls. But we'll see. You got the home button, C button. Over here, similar kind of thing, you know. It's nice. I do want to talk about the sideways Joy-Con situation, because this is protruded like that, it makes sideways Joy-Cons much better than before, because before you'd be pressing it in right there, right? And you kind of needed the rails to really have any grip on there. But these are nice metal, much larger buttons, and they click nice too. You don't have to press them in like crazy, and they were like half this size before. So it's better. Still not, you know, this isn't going to be people's favorite way to play on the Switch, but I think it's a lot better. And I personally don't mind using Switch Joy-Con sideways for, you know, games like Mario Party, Mario Kart. For those applications, it's going to be great. So when you put this on, it's not sliding anymore. You're first going to latch the bottom on like that, because there's a little thingy there that clips in, and then the top does that. So, and once you just press it in and then it clips in, you're good to go. Right here you've got some pads for when you use this as a mouse, like that, right? And to take it off, you take it off just like you would from the Switch itself. You just press the release button, the latch mechanism undoes itself, off. Very nice, very easy, much better than the original Switch. The original Switch is a bit clunky, but that is very much improved. Okay, what did I miss? Right here. We gotta see how this works. I actually haven't done this yet. Okay, that is great. It's magnetic, just like the actual Switch. I imagine there are some powerful magnets in there. There's a little thing that actually doesn't have any function. It's just a plastic slit. I think it's just to have something to go in there. Might put the left side on. Very nice. So you don't have the curve that used to be here that would like go over to the top of the Joy-Con. Probably to avoid scratches, because you have to push it outward, right, to release it, so you really can't have anything in the way there. I don't think it's going to be an issue. There are 2 rubber pads here to kind of prevent the Joy-Cons from directly touching this back plastic part. So it's not, I don't think this is going to cause excessive wear and tear or anything. And this certainly is a better iteration when compared to the original Switch. It feels similar, you know, in terms of its profile and everything. It gives you that grip in the rear. That's pretty nice. So, me personally, when it's docked, I will probably still prefer to use, you know, some kind of Pro Controller, either Nintendo's Pro Controller or the 8-bit Do Ultimate Controller. Those are kind of my go-tos, but hey, when in need, this thing is much better than the first one. Okay, well there you have it. I have just want to note that I've heard reports of people being quite disappointed with the quality of the screen when you turn it on, the brightness, HDR, things like that. I'm going to turn this on a little bit later just because I'm going to go through all the account setup stuff and moving over my account from my original Switch and all that. So I'll keep you posted on my first impressions of the screen. I'm not terribly picky with screens, so I don't think I'll have a problem, but I don't know. I hope it's not disappointing because they were advertising HDR, and HDR screens typically are pretty nice. And I'm coming from the OLED Steam Deck, which has a really nice screen. So, but yeah, I will let you guys know, and I'll have to try out Mario Kart. I'm pretty excited for that, and we'll see you in the next episode. Okay, so there we have it. The Nintendo Switch 2. After recording that, I got the Switch 2 all set up. My account is transferred over. It's actually pretty seamless. So I have the original Switch, the launch day Switch. I don't have any other Switches. I didn't buy an OLED or anything. So once you power on the Switch 2, which I've got right here, it'll walk you through the steps of getting it set up. It'll ask you, hey, do you want to transfer over your data from an existing Switch? And if you hit yes, it'll walk you through everything. It probably took me about 15 to 20 minutes to get it all set up. That time might depend on how much save data you have on your original Switch. And what it will do is it actually doesn't... So if your account is tied to an actual Nintendo Online account, it won't delete your profile on the old Switch. What it'll do is it'll move over everything to this one, assuming that this will be your primary device now. But if you ever want to actually, you know, use your old Switch, you totally can. Which is nice. I like that because, you know, if my wife is playing something on one device and I want to play a different game on the other device, we can do that. All of our accounts are still intact. So that's great. I like that. I just want to kind of give some additional commentary, things that I didn't talk about in that video that you just saw. So after I got it all set up, I just did a quick test. I haven't really played any games in depth just because I wanted to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. Overall, I just want to give some thoughts on the screen real quick because that's kind of a point of controversy right now from what I see online. So, first of all, Nintendo opted to put a permanent some kind of plastic screen protector on top of this. I assume underneath is glass, but what they said that it's intended to prevent the screen from shattering. That's just what I heard. I didn't check sources or anything. I didn't care enough to do that. What that means is that this is going to be much resistant to shattering because of that layer, but also because that plastic coating is not intended to ever really be removed. Anything metal will scratch it up. It just will. I watched a video from Jerry Rig Everything testing out the screen. You can check him out on YouTube. He's great. And yeah, it scratches pretty easily. It won't scratch with plastics most likely, but anything metal will scratch it. In my mind, it's not that big of a deal. It's one or the other, right? Like if a screen is softer, or the front of the screen is softer, it's going to be more resistant to shattering and cracks and such. And I guess Nintendo prioritized that, especially because a lot of kids are going to have these devices, which I understand. Um, and but that makes it more prone to scratching. But if you want to prevent scratching, you need to make the surface harder. But if you make the surface harder, that makes it more prone to cracking and shattering. So it won't really make a big difference to me. I've already ordered a tempered glass screen protector that I like to put on all of my devices with screens on it. And then if that shatters, then I just replace it. I never really had that issue with the Switch One. You know, I take a little extra care of my stuff anyway. So there's the situation and my thoughts on that. I don't think it's a big deal. And I would honestly recommend that you put screen protectors on all of your Switches, especially because this is something like I talked about in that video. It's gonna go in and out of your dock pretty frequently, right? It's a hybrid device, so it's always good to have that extra protection, something that can be replaced in the event of anything happening in the future. With that said, a lot of people aren't happy with the quality of the screen. Some people I even heard were expecting it to be an OLED. That it was never advertised as such. I don't really know where that came from. There's kind of how it looks. I mean, you're looking through a camera, so this isn't really going to be a good representation of what it looks like. But so I was like, okay, what's the deal? Is it bright enough? Is it okay? My understanding is in docked mode, that's when it does HDR. I don't know if it does HDR in handheld. I don't think it does. I've seen some mixed things online, but I don't know. I think just dock mode HDR is fine for me. I'm not looking for the highest fidelity portable experience, though it would be nice, and maybe this is because my perspective is like the Switch that I have that this is going to be replacing is the original launch day Switch, which had a screen that was serviceable, but not, super high quality by today's standards. And even then, I was totally okay with it. I never had an issue with it. I didn't have any reason to upgrade my original Switch. So this already honestly is a big improvement over the original launch day Switch screen. So I don't really have complaints. I even went outside to just see how the screen looks in broad daylight, and for me it was bright enough. I don't have any issues or complaints. It's a nice sharp screen. But I guess that depends on how picky you are. And if you're a picky person, I think you know who you are. But yeah, I'm good with it. Though I should say that I'm someone that likes my screens a little bit dimmer than most people do, just because I don't know. I like an image that's not harsh on my eyes, if that makes sense. So, like if my wife shows me something on her phone, usually I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so bright. Can you turn it down a little bit? So, maybe I just like screens dimmer than most people. Also, for that matter, I hardly ever cranked up. I can't think of any time when I crank up the brightness on a portable device all the way up. I just never do that. I usually have it at like 50% or less, unless I'm in broad daylight, So there's my take on that. Um, I didn't test every single Switch 1 game that I have on the Switch 2, so the whole backwards compatibility thing. Nintendo disclaimed that there are gonna be some games that aren't backwards compatible. I can't think of. I think it's just gonna be the really niche games that are gonna have that, like Labo and I don't know, some other very Switch 1 specific things. But I think for the most part, if it's a game that you play in handheld and you put it on the TV and stuff, it'll probably be fine. I tried playing Smash, just because Smash is um, I don't know, I just have a really good sense of how that looked on the original Switch just because I put so many hours into it. And it played just fine. I just tried it in handheld with the Joy Cons, and it played totally fine. Load times are good. Um, it just looked better because the screen is better than the original Switch. But um, people are kind of not happy that if you're coming from an OLED Switch, the screen may objectively be a downgrade, just at least in terms of, getting those deep blacks and things like that. I'd have to see one side by side, honestly, to be able to give a good opinion on that. But um, I don't know. I guess I didn't expect them to have an OLED screen on the Switch to begin with, because I'm sure they're gonna come out with an OLED one later on, and this is already better than the launch day Switch. And I don't know. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Anyway, I've said enough on that. So one thing I wanted to talk about is, do you really need a Switch 2 right now? Obviously, I bought one because I wanted to, make all this content for you guys. Um, but if I weren't doing this, I may not have bought it on launch day. Um, Let me explain just a little bit. So, right now, the only game that I'm excited to play on this is Mario Kart World. And I haven't really been this excited for a Mario Kart in a long time. Um, but I don't know, the new features and things that you can do in it are pretty intriguing to me, and I think I'm pretty excited for it. I think it's gonna be cool. Um, and my wife loves Mario Kart, and I have some friends that like Mario Kart as well, so it'll just be a great party game to have. Um, but the launch day lineup isn't that great when you think about Nintendo games only, right? It's really Mario Kart. That's the only big Nintendo game that's out today that you can play right now if you got the Nintendo Switch 2. All of the other big titles are relying on third parties. So, Cyberpunk 2077, Hogwarts Legacy, a bunch of other big titles. Um, I think it might make a lot of sense if you're someone that doesn't have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X or whatever, and you haven't played a lot of those big third-party titles and you want to get into them. Then this would be great, because now you can play those games for the very first time on your TV or portably. I think that makes a lot of sense. But I'd be willing to bet that most people that are interested in games like that probably already have a PC or a different console on which they've already played these games. And if that's the case, are you going to buy it on the Switch 2 again just to play it portably? If the answer is yes, then that might be cool. But, someone like me, I play on PC, I play on my Steam Deck. I'm not really interested in buying those third-party games. So that's some things to consider. And really, I think the only other big Nintendo first-party title coming out soon, relatively speaking to the launch, is Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think that comes out in July next month. So even then, you've got some time to wait. And the question is, are you interested in a Donkey Kong game? I think I'll eventually buy this game because I think it deserves a chance. A lot of people complain that, hey, we need something new going on for Donkey Kong, and now they've done it, you know. We've talked about it with Alex, right? They're giving Donkey Kong some love, and it doesn't look like the conventional Donkey Kong style game. So I'd highly recommend you check out some gameplay videos of that when that's getting closer to launch, once it gets reviewed. And then if it's something that interests you, and if you weren't someone totally on board with just Mario Kart World, maybe you could make your decision then on, okay, is it worth buying a whole new console to play, to have access to a bunch of these big third-party games portably, and then also Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. We don't have a big Mario game. We don't have a big mainline Zelda game, anything like that. So, but in my mind, this new Donkey Kong game is kind of equivalent to a mainline Mario game like Mario Odyssey. I don't know. It just gives me how it looks and feels. It just has really similar characteristics, I think. So, if you're someone that really likes the mainline Mario games, I think the Donkey Kong game would be a good one to check out. So hopefully that information kind of helps you decide, do I really need a Switch right now? If you decide you want one, hopefully you still can't get one. I hear demand is pretty high. In fact, Alex's order unfortunately got canceled. We both got our pre-orders through Walmart. But when Walmart went to process Alex's credit card, it got declined because his bank or credit card company thought that it was fraud. So the transaction got declined, and Alex did not have a chance to, when he reached out to Walmart, he's like, hey, I've cleared the red flag, the fraud flag with my bank. Can you please run it through again? And they said, oh, no, sorry. The order must have been taken up by someone else. And so he didn't get a chance to update that. So his pre-order is gone, which I don't think was handled very well, but it is what it is. So there you have it. That's my initial first impressions of the Nintendo Switch 2. I will certainly be playing some Mario Kart World this week. I'll report back to you, and I think for the next recording, Alex should be back. He's been swamped with his internship thing. Sorry he hasn't been around, but hey, he is involved. He's paying attention. He reviews these episodes and stuff, so don't worry, he's not gone. He's still very much a part of this podcast. So let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Did you get a Switch 2? If you have, I know some of you have in our Discord. I've been seeing the commotion going on in there, which has been fun to see. Do you not want a Switch 2 for maybe some of the reasons that I listed or other things? Let us know. Is the screen a deal breaker to you? Would you have to have it be OLED with a peak brightness of 1000 nits for you to consider it? I don't know. I think the majority of Nintendo's audience is probably not going to be a stickler for that. It certainly wasn't, for me. But hey, if that is something that's a deal breaker to you and you feel like something of this price should have, just a better screen, then vote with your money. Don't buy the Switch 2, right? That's the most power that we have over these companies is our money. And I always say this, vote with your money. So, well, thanks for listening, and a special thanks to our Patreon supporters. We've got our Down to Earth Cockatiels, Joshua, Matthew, and Tyler. Our Down to Earth parakeets include J Mauer, Nicholas, and Noah. Thank you always for your support. Thank you so much. And again, my raw unboxing video that's a little rough around the edges, I'm going to go ahead and post that to the Patreon. So if you're listening, it should be up now if you want to go check it out. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next time.